Go.
Welcome everyone to another podcast, Adeel Pirzada podcast. Today, we got another exciting episode all about construction. I'm here, your host, Adeel Pirzada, with Kevin Padillo.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Glad that you can all be here. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Kevin. So, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Happy that its holidays are coming, and I'm just glad. I'm just glad to be here and be a part of a great group.
Right on. Yeah. It's been pretty busy, and a lot of stuff that happens in December. We have a few projects closing, so it's been a pretty busy month in that sense. But yeah, we're glad it's all going to be done, and then we're going to be enjoying some Christmas holidays here.
Yeah, for sure. And I know like the salon is opening or finishing up pretty soon too.
It's actually done in terms of construction. Their last final things are required. The owner has part of the work that they have to complete.
Yeah.
So they're going to come down, and they're actually already working on it and having their products put in the thing. They have to set it up, the entire store with their staff possibly, and then make it, up and running. And then that's how we go through some of the inspections, the final inspection, especially the health inspection.
Yeah, everyone. So we're working on a project, Ooh La La Nails. Hope you guys can check it out. If you're in the Northwest Bowness area, go see our great work. We have one of our construction managers, Chris, been really working so hard on this project. Finally coming to a close, things to finish. But if you guys want to see examples of our work, that is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just want to introduce our sponsors. Hosted and sponsored by the Pircon Group, as you can tell by our t-shirts. We are commercial construction experts. We do design build. We will build anything from retail, anything commercial, anything restaurants, any kind of office space. We can help build that for you and design as well. So feel free to reach out, and pircongroup.com. That's where you can find us. The link's down below.
Yep. So today I think we're on the one of the topics. So these past week we've been talking about different types of construction, residential. Well, we started with subdivision, so empty piece of land, and then residential construction, commercial. So I think today we got industrial. That is in line. So Kevin has put some questions together for me to discuss about industrial construction. So I'll let you take on it, Kevin.
Awesome. Let's do this. So industrial construction, there's so much things to cover here. Industrial, as we could tell earlier this month, we were covering residential, we're covering commercial, and we covered a little bit of design last week. Now we're going to go into industrial construction, and this all goes towards building a community. All in a community, there's always things that need to move in as part of the ecosphere, and industrial is where our food comes from, our energy comes from, our gas comes from, and where our things get stored. So I have some questions that I'm going to ask Adeel.
Yeah.
Adeel has a great experience in commercial and construction, and some in industrial as well. So we're going to cover these questions and ready to dive in. So Adeel, what would you consider as a type of industrial construction?
So industrial is all the big buildings. So your warehouse space, the storage spaces, manufacturing plants, the power stations, the grid station. You have special like food plants, food processing places.
Yeah.
Those are all industrial construction. It's basically it's construction has few categories that we've been discussing about. So there's more than that, but those are the big ones. And then looking deeply into it, there's subcategories within that. So you will find some places that are actually retail, and you'll consider the commercial, but they act like an industrial, and vice versa. So mainly industrial is basically that has been given to be developed in an area that is not treated as a retail as much. It's if it has to be noisy, if it has to have like chemical plants, right? So if it needs to be away from public, so all those things, it kind of takes it towards the industrial zoning, hence the industrial plants. Industrial construction. But the type of construction itself, like what is required to do construction, it's you're following the building codes. You're still following, the bylaws of the city. So and the building at the end is still pretty much similar. Like those are bigger buildings, higher ceiling. They are finished differently, but the construction materials that are used are pretty much same as commercial construction that we were talking about. They just build bigger and a little stronger, that you would say, and depending on what is the need is and what you're building as the plan. If it's just a storage space, you just build a big warehouse, and you don't need any floors. You just need a concrete floor and the basically the ceiling, and obviously your heating and electrical. Whatever the water use is there for a washroom or drains and things like that. But it's pretty simple and straightforward. But if you're looking into special plants, and if you're looking into like energy plants and like food processing plants, then it gets complex in terms of what's going to be there. So there's going to be some offices inside. There's going to be maybe some of them could have a retail space as well inside. So a big industrial space will have a warehouse and a manufacturing plants, an office space for the staff, and maybe some retail area. So it could be a combination, a whole bunch of things in that one big building. And then how it gets built is exactly, you just go into the subcategory, and they're just followed by the building code and the bylaws. It gets done.
Great.
Yeah.
So warehouses, storage space, manufacturing plants, power stations, special plants, mechanic shops, special energy. We have all these different things that we want to cover here. I know these are the different types of industrial construction. I just realized the questions weren't properly written out, but we're going to adapt, just like in everything in construction. With all these, like, what would you say is what's important for an owner, a project owner, to know when he's looking to build industrial? What are the important things to know and to get started?
Same thing that you would have for any other construction. You want to take the same steps. So you want to find the right designer, then and the right team for that, who can design the project and figure out your feasibility. And then you want to have a right construction team as well, who's been doing this stuff or who knows how to get it done, right? So same thing you would do for your commercial, for your retail construction. Now you're just talking more money, more responsibility, more risk, bigger timelines, bigger items that are being done. So it's just massive in its size in a summary. Basically, when you're doing industrial, obviously there are different things you have to kind of look into for when it comes to building permit and development permits. There is a lot more studies that are done into it because, again, depending on the area, if it's an existing area, then it's already zoned as an industrial. If it became a new area, or you are getting even, let's say, a land rezoning, it's gonna have different steps and different measures that are taken to get to that point, and then you need different team members in that. But mainly, you would start off with your designer, and then you need a construction team.
Awesome. And like normal time frame, normally how long would it take to build like a huge square, like a warehouse, like an Amazon warehouse, for example? That's huge. Those things are massive.
Yeah, it takes time. Depend how quick is also needed by a client and how much they're willing to pay. Like you can definitely get things done faster if you're able to pay more money, if they're willing to invest more capital into it, depending on, if you really need it that quick. That's how some of these companies will get it done. They'll get it done super quick because they'll spend extra money. That brings in more people, more manpower, more equipment. Things get faster. So,
Right.
yeah, these things go pretty fast. Like, let me tell you this, like some of the commercial places could take a lot of time. Because even it might be small, and I mean by small, let's say a 10,000 square foot space that you were doing a build up for a commercial. Let's say it's a big restaurant or a big community hall,
Right, yeah.
and versus you were building a 10,000 square foot warehouse space. You're gonna be finishing the warehouse space way quicker than, and I'm talking about same size, 10,000 square foot each. The reason, because the warehouse space doesn't need any interior construction. It's very simple. You just build a building. It doesn't even have to look nice. It's just a very straight panel, a very raw looking building from the outside as well. And then as soon as you step inside, you usually see these places like Costco is actually an industrial building. It's a different thing. It's used as a commercial in a way, but it's still a big warehouse, or all these big box store.
Which they turn into a retail at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. They're big. They're basically they're a storage space and a retail put together. That's what it is. Yeah.
Would you say the DP is this like different or unique in that case?
No, it's not unique. It's pretty standard. I mean, this has been happening for years, so everything is pretty lined up. Yeah, like all these big stores. Like when you have a small retail store, they have a warehouse in the back somewhere, right? So they basically have two buildings. What they ended up doing is pretty smart, like Home Depot and Walmart and Superstore. All these spaces is very smart. They put a combination of a storage and a retail store together.
Genius.
So you spend you spend less money because you don't need, because of storage, you need higher ceiling area, you need like higher shelves to go, you need a lot of lighting, you need a lot of open space. That's what you need. For when you're doing a strictly retail place, then you got to really take care of like how it looks inside, and then there
you got to care more.
Yeah, so there's a lot of time and money spent doing the makeup inside, basically on a retail space that could be a same size as the industrial space, and you're spending a lot less time doing those.
Genius idea. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool because when I walk by Home Depot at night, they're still open. There's lights on. So I guess it looks like they're moving stuff around. Like they're organizing shelves and their stuff is getting dropped off and they're filling shelves up for the next day, which would be tomorrow, Saturday, where so many people would come into the store and just buy. They want to restock at night.
Yeah.
So they keep it on the shelves. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it usually goes. They're like they're running 24/7 in a way because they got to stock up, they got to clean up, they got to, if they're bringing a new product and taking the old one out, that's what they do.
Genius.
Even some renovations. Those are the timings that renovation gets done. So let's say a superstore decided to have a big kitchen, or they wanted to expand certain department. Well, guess what? When's the construction is going to take place? At night. So they're working, and they have construction team working in there. Yeah. Doing the work, doing the renovations that's required to get the work done. And then in the day, they want to have the customer, so they would still want to have the area operational. Most of the time, that's how they would do it. But yeah, on their own operations, there's so much going on that I don't know. Like I've never worked in Superstore, so I wouldn't know like what are the things that are taking place. I had a chance to work at IKEA, and just for very little time, and it was, I remember at night, like that's when I was kind of working, and they wouldn't close. It would their employees
Constant.
Their employees working. There's like a lot of employees are still working, doing a lot of different things.
Wow, that's powerful. I like this. This is really cool because when we drive down 52nd, all you see the whole industrial area, man. 52nd Southeast.
Yeah.
It's all industrial.
Yeah, that's in Calgary. That's what we got. Every city actually have those areas. Yeah. You'll see almost always every big city right by the airport, they'll have a big industrial area, which actually provides a lot of demand that the airport and their traveling requires, right?
Yeah,
like
for
the
Calgary,
food
yeah.
and packaging and things like that.
Yeah.
That's in Calgary, Toronto.
UPS is near the airport here.
Yeah. Like BC, it's everywhere. Pretty much every city is in the West is very identical. That you'll find this big warehouse spaces, these industrial spaces by the airport. Now, there are like within the industrial, there are so many things, right? Like there is industrial storage that we're discussing, and then the industrial manufacturing, but there is also in your construction, like the heavy equipment construction companies, they will also have to be in an industrial area. It's not like you have a road building company that can get an office in downtown. It's not really possible because they got heavy equipment. And they have to be an industrial area. They're loud. They got in and out, a lot of moving. They need bigger roads. They need
a big yard.
Yeah, they need a big yard. So it's not really going to happen in an area that is, inner city. So you're going to have the area that's away from the city. And actually, most of the time, I'm not sure. Like the places I visited, the places I've been to, different cities, I haven't seen it. I don't get me wrong on it. Like I'm just going to say, I've never seen like by the airport anything other than storage and small manufacturing plants. So it's not like you can have a big construction company in the industrial area that is by the airport, because they don't want those kind of like, even like let's say trucking companies where the trucks gets parked. You're not going to find them close to the city. You're not going to find it in the airport industrial area. They're usually away from the city in a designated industrial area. That's where their focus is.
For sure. Yeah, like just our area. If you ever want to come visit our office, our area is in the southeast of Calgary. And in our area, there's lots of construction companies. We're in an industrial area. There's like construction firms, yards, and truck yards. And, there's a huge trucker stop down the road. So our area here that we're in now is filled with industrial type of construction. You won't really find like a huge tower in this area. Maybe there's homes across a Deerfoot there, but you won't find a residential tower built in the middle of an industrial area. I think it'd be people wouldn't be that happy, I don't think.
Yeah, and it's noisy, and then there is a lot of other things to look at. All these big trucking companies and these truck yards and then heavy equipment yards, they have a lot of spill, like oil, right? They have gasoline and diesel that is being consumed in those equipment.
And it's going in the water as well.
Yeah, and they're loud. And then there's so many other reasons. The road grade that is built in an industrial area is built differently. So the type of the road that's built in an industrial area,
I didn't know that.
It's built differently. It's considering the load, right? That these heavy equipment. So those roads are kind of already pre-built to carry that heavy load for all this. So let's say it's a big warehouse space, and there's going to be a lot of in and out with the shipping trucks and trailers. Well, they better build a road, so they work on that it doesn't get damaged so easily, because there's so much movement and traffic of these bigger equipment, right? And then like let's say big construction company, they build bridges. Well, they're going to have their office or their warehouse office space in the industrial area because they got big construction equipment moving in and out, and they're going to be in an industrial area because of noise reason, because of health and safety, and actually the part of like the construction maintenance would be required by the city to perform. Like, yeah.
So you were, if you don't know Adeel has great experience in building subdivisions, and I'm really curious on how is important of the soil and the ground conditions when building a warehouse. How important is that, and how do you prepare the land for building a huge industrial area that could be damaging to the area?
I think we talked in our last podcast, like the hardest type of construction, dams are harder to build, and I don't know, so many other types of different roads that maybe you're tunneling into a big mountain. and bridges and roads under the ocean. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking typical construction that we have in front of us, that we usually come across. The hardest you will find is high-rise buildings, because they're tall, they're skinny, they have a lot of risk factors that have to be considered for. When you're building these warehouses, you're not preparing the same way. It's not that hard. You're not digging deep on the ground. They're usually slab on grade, which means that your floor is right on the ground. So you don't have to dig down very deep. You don't have to have big foundations, like some of these commercial buildings or even apartment buildings, and for sure like high-rise buildings. So you don't have to worry about all that stuff. So it's pretty straightforward. Some places like Calgary is a really good area, and like overall Canada and USA, they're typically pretty good. When you're building it, maybe, in a desert, it's different. Like in the Middle East, you may have some issues that you have to deal with because, you maybe have to dig it and have some sort of special foundation. I haven't worked that part of the world, so I don't know how it usually goes in Canada and USA. It's pretty straightforward. You'll just dig it down. We got pretty good soil here. It's very stable. Some areas are different. Like some areas may have this loose stuff that you have to pay extra attention to, but that's majority of the stuff is not like that. So there aren't many special measures that need to be taken when building a warehouse space.
How about like a manufacturing facility and like stuff gets spilt into the water, or chemicals? How does that relate with the land?
Again, if it's like, it has to be approved by the county, the town, the city, the state, province, wherever you're building that, right? Whichever jurisdiction you are. Maybe you're building it, let's say outside of Calgary, then you're dealing with Rocky View and Rocky Mountain. And it really depends. So if they're okay with it, they get you an approval, because you're allowed to do that. It's an industrial zone, and then you decided to open up an industrial shop there. It's going to be pretty easy because it's already designed for it. They're going to be okay with it. Now, when it comes to construction and like the construction that needs to be done inside, that's where they're going to be picking on. So like we have, design and build many industrial places like on this size, like building a mechanic shop, okay, like a big mechanic shop. For that, you would need a special building construction. What it is, you need to put big grease traps. So if you're familiar that we have some grease traps that we use in a commercial restaurant, take that on level times 10 for these big places, right? So we'll put that in the ground that will collect grease when there is a spill. Let's say if it's a big mechanic shop, so there's going to be grease all the time. There's going to be oil and diesel and things like that. And that's where it goes drain into. So like those are the things it really depends. If you're putting a big lift in a warehouse space, then you have to dig down deep, build a foundation depending on the load, depending on where the point load is, depending on what what is your use is. So you'll have those special within the warehouse. So let's say it's a big warehouse, 10,000 square foot, and there is some area. Well, then they're going to have to do a special reinforcement to the concrete so they can bury that weight. Yeah,
for sure. Foundations are so key, so important. Yeah, I know. When I was working with a lot of concrete, foundations were so important when building a brewery. We built a Safeway, and then we worked on the food bank, and safety was key. And also, like, it's amazing how basic everything was. All it was just like everything's wall. Like working on the food bank, it was on big mezzanine. It was concrete and steel and Q-deck. Yeah, it wasn't easy to take apart, but it was just really cool and simple how it was built.
Honestly, if you know what you're doing as a contractor, as a construction firm, building commercial ground up is, I would say, even a lot easier than building residential. Residential, there's it's very minuscule. It's very little, to build a house. It's not that much required. The money factor isn't that big in a way, right? Pretty standard materials that are used that you can find in Home Depot. that you would think, but it's a lot of detail that goes into it. There's a lot of little things that you have to look into. But when you're building, if you're a well set up construction company to build for ground up, it's pretty straightforward.
Great.
Yep.
With now with these special plants, let's talk a little bit about our power station special plants. I know we talked about mechanic shops, and then we'll cover briefly special energy like oil and gas, wind, solar. Anything special you want to add on these topics?
I think, like I said, the building part of it is pretty standard and straightforward. It's like few trades involved in a way. It doesn't take that much, but obviously they have to be like, they have to know what they're doing because there's the heavy stuff. And then you get the building done. Now within the building, like if it's a powerhouse and a power station to a mechanic shop to a manufacturing, like you're going to have different requirements, like different structural, electrical, mechanical requirement.
Safety is important too. You might get shocked.
Yeah. So exactly. So those have to be followed, and then, fire alarm systems and fire sprinkler systems. And so they're accompanied with that in order to make it as a safe environment, special HVAC system. So if you got a manufacturing plant, there's a lot of dust and there's a lot of, let's say, chemical place, whereas, there may be manufacturing paint. So there's different things, right? There's like a manufacturing plant for like something that has, deals with manufacturing plastic or rubber, then it's like a different. So for the building part, as a construction company, as a contractor, let's say Pircon is on it, for us things are not going to look very different. We're just going to build the foundation and have the the walls and the ceiling and building ready to go. But within the building, what needs to be done, the owner has a lot of involvement in that. So they know, they're getting their equipment and what it requires. So those things. So we really sit down with the owner, with the owner company. Let's say if it's a corporation, and we will get all the information, like what they're getting done there, and we make sure like all the engineering parts are taken care of. Like if they got a big heavy equipment, make sure there is right footings for it, it's built right, so that equipment can sit on it. If there is issues with, let's say, chemicals and chemical hazard materials, and maybe there is a smell, so then we'll take those precautions. You have to have special stations and wash stations and eye wash stations and things like that. So it gets accompanied with a lot of different things. All the engineers basically sit together and they'll come up, each will work within their own domain, and they will come up with a solution. And it's very easy to figure out. It doesn't take that a lot.
Powerful. When I was a kid, I would go to my dad's work, and there was always a warehouse. He'd always work in warehouses or manufacturing places, and they always had a big beam with a crane moving across. You ever seen those?
Yeah.
Those are cool, man. It's like a winch or a hoist.
Yeah, so like if you go to like a concrete plant, right, and indoor, especially in Canada, you would have to be like, if you're manufacturing, because you can only manufacture than half of the year if it's outdoor. And like in US, they will have some outdoor plants, and they're constantly doing work all the year round outdoor. So when they're building, let's say, manholes and big concrete pipes and like a precast concrete, well, that's what they have. Metal plants and big places, they have the same thing. They would have this crane. There is a name for it. I can't think of it.
It's on a beam and it slides back and forth.
So it's basically a big heavy beam, and then you got a crane, like a pulley system pretty much to attach to it. And that would move your stuff around. So the building itself is pretty simple if you look at it. You just need a good, sensible commercial or industrial GC on it.
Right.
But building inside of it is the harder part. So that's where you need the right team as of the engineers, that they can get the right equipment, and then we just follow the plan. So if we know where we're putting extra concrete and reinforcing it and maybe, doing special things like that, then we will just take care of it as a contractor. And then most of the time, those equipment suppliers, like if there's like a big crane like that, so it's like an
Right.
interior crane, you want to call it, you will have actually that company who's providing that equipment will come out actually install it. So there's those cases too. It really depends. Like in a mechanic shop, you see they have those car lifts, right? What would happen wherever you're buying that lift from, they may have a service where they come and install it.
Mm.
Yeah, so but as a GC, we'll just prepare the ground and we'll create it a certain way that it can take the load by reading the engineer's drawing and then what we have an approval on. So taking all those measures and we'll have it prepared for them. They'll come in and they'll install the lift.
Yeah. And they have to do it blindfolded as well.
Yeah, that's their punishment.
Yeah. So special energy. Let's briefly go over these, and we'll wrap up for today.
Yeah, it's funny you wrote it down there, and then I was thinking, okay, I don't know much about it because I don't really want to talk about that I am not expert on. I can go as far as like building a warehouse and storage space and like this big retail industrial plants, and we've done some like design on manufacturing plants, industrial manufacturing plants. So that's something I know and I feel comfortable talking about. For oil and gas and some special places, I know there is a lot involved. Again, those are from the looks of it, you know, and let's say there is oil, what would you call that? Oil refinery. Okay. So if you look at that, there's a lot going on in that. That's an industrial building. The building pretty much built on a same principle as you would build something for a superstore, let's say. Okay. But the real, you know, the difficulties is building, you know, what it requires. So it has a lot of mechanical, chemical engineering involved in it. And, you know, there are special firms and companies that actually just strictly do that work. So
Yeah.
they'll just come out and then they'll put the system in. You'll just have the building built and they'll put the system. So I don't know. I know there's different ways. Maybe there's special companies just do that stuff. But I
There are
know,
many.
yeah, there are many ways you know, you could get it done.
Yeah.
But I know that that's one of the ways. When they'll have it done, they will build, you know, all the chemical plants within that and silos and, you know, whatever is required to complete that. And it's very complicated stuff that gets done there.
For sure. Yeah, especially with wind and solar, oil and gas. I know there are a lot of specialty companies out there that just specifically focus on those industries. You know, Pircon, we're not there yet, but I know there's going to be times there are great companies that have experience in this level and great skill to get stuff done in that area.
Yeah.
Especially oil and gas and wind.
Solar, like we've been involved with some solar, but that's for residential, you know, solar panels, and some commercial. Like those aren't too difficult. Solar is pretty straightforward in a way. Like it doesn't take a lot. Actually, for a solar farm, you don't
Panels.
even require panels, and we actually have.
Yeah.
I think it's being completed by the city, not too far from our office. They had this vacant, empty piece of land sitting there doing nothing, and then just ended up putting solar panels on it,
On the roof.
on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not on the roof. Actually, it's a great idea to do it on the roof. Like if you have a big industrial building, put the solar panel on the roof.
Yeah.
So
You know, like there's actually, my friend sells solar. He says only 50% of homes can, or buildings can actually have solar on it because, you know, the sun doesn't go there much. And, you know, it could be a waste of money.
yeah, it really depends. Really depends how the building is. Especially a house, it has that roof that, you know, may not meet the angle where the sunrise and sunset is basically, you know, if you got a house and the roof is built that way. If your roof is kind of slanted towards west, I mean, and or the east or the south side, then you're a little lucky and then you can, you know, get some solar panel on your roof. But I'm sure there's other ways to do that and achieve that. With industrial building, it is happening actually. that where they're using solar panel to actually produce their energy, and then that's what they consume. But there is big cost to that. We actually looked into, did a little bit of study on it for a client who actually did a manufacturing plant, so industrial plant, industrial space, and a manufacturing plant, and then had plans to actually put solar panels to consume their energy. But there's some hiccups in that, getting that done, because you're still connected to a grid and you still have to use it as a backup unless you got, big storage, big batteries to store all that solar power. Now, that is a big cost itself, and there are different things to look at. So it really depends, on the business plan and the feasibility of it. So it kind of didn't work out for them, but it's not very cheap. Like, it's costly still. But doing a simple solar, like something like that what I just explained, something we can easily handle. But yeah, oil and gas, we're definitely not there, and maybe one day we will be.
For sure. Just thinking of oil and gas, they would need the huge machinery and cranes. And we will, I know I've worked with a company in doing wind for the summer, and we were installing big turbines. And it was great just, doing a pour and finishing the concrete and the foundations of the wind farms. And those just have to be so strong, especially in the wind. Those could be easily blown away if it's not strong.
Yeah.
So, gotta be solid and grounded.
Oh, there is a lot that goes into that. So safety is the big. So like I'm talking about, building these big warehouses, and I'm saying that those are really simple to build, right? They're easier to build even as compared to a house. But the big difference between a contractor that's working and building a residential home and a contractor that's building industrial warehouse, let's say 20, 30,000 square foot, is the skill level and safety. Nothing else. So there's obviously safety risk involved when you're building a home, but things are very reachable, available, and it's not that tough. But when you're working around big equipment and getting those bigger places done, like building a warehouse, you really got to worry about safety. You got maybe big scrapers and graders and crane, backhoe, and you'll have different heavy equipment on site working there. Whoever's working on site has to be very aware of what's happening around them, and they have to think about their safety and everybody else. So you need that skill trade or skill people and management with the experience. So that's a big factor in between the two construction, if you want to talk about it. In a short and industrial construction, a ground up or commercial, it takes less trades to complete that project as it takes to build a house. But that trade in industrial it's powerful and heavy in terms of their talent and skill level.
Yeah, there's company strength.
Equipment. They're specialized in that, and that's what they kind of do. And that's who we would hire as a GC as well. Like, we'll hire that special trade that only does that industrial, work. We won't have our residential door installer to come out and help us out on an industrial project. It's not going to happen because the two factors aren't there. That is safety and the talent level. So we wouldn't want to take a risk. We would want to go to the right team and have them engage in our project to get it done.
No, I think he should be hired for concrete, man. The residential door guy. Just joking. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. This is the Adeel Pirzada podcast. Any last minute notes we want to leave to the guests and our final last words?
That should be coming from you, Kevin. So I feel like I've been doing all the talk, so I'll take a break.
All right. Adeel's the chattiest of all of us, so
right.
I'm more of the.
I'm just put in the spot all the time to talk about something, and then I'm asked these questions. So
yeah. So today we covered industrial construction. We covered so much from warehouses to special energy, grid stations, manufacturing. We talked a little bit about this design and getting to know the approval state process, the DP process. We covered so much. If there is a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out to us. Emails down below or in the description. Feel free to give us your feedback. We want to improve this. We want to hear what you have to say. And we want to learn so much more from you and what you want to hear, because this podcast is for you. I know it's based on his name, but it's it's for you too.
Yeah, we should call it For You Podcast.
Yeah.
That would be...
It's cheesy.
Yeah. Guys, honestly, we're doing this. I think this is really going to help down the road. The stuff we're discussing, it's great. I get a great feeling every time we do this, every Friday. So there is a lot of learning as actually I go through it, and then now I'm actually wanting to look into oil and gas and actually see how that gets done. So I feel like I'm pushed to learn more, which is great, because there are things I already know, and then especially the things that Pircon provides services in. We specialize on that stuff, so I feel very confident, and I know what's taking place in at least the part that we have completed, so I can discuss on that. But some of the stuff that we've been kind of looking at, I really want to get involved with that and get to know more for my own learning. So it's a great chance for me to explore my talent level and see, okay, what I don't know, and maybe I should get into it and learn about. So if there's any feedback, do let us know. And like Kevin said, if there's any questions about construction, especially commercial construction, do let us know. If you have any question about residential construction, we'll take care of that. We just don't talk. It's just too easy, and it's been too talk about in the market anyway. There are a lot of channels and help you can get on residential, but building up ground of residential, if there's any questions, you can bug us. You can ask any questions on that. Commercial, for sure, ask us. If you have any trouble with some work that you've been trying to get done with and you're not getting anywhere, do let us know. We can help you out. Our team, we have people that really specialize on commercial construction. We know about building permits, development permits, what it requires, all the bylaws and building code that kind of goes around that. So we can help you, and we can advise you at least where you can. It kind of helps you to make your decision better and faster. If we can do that for you, we'll love to do that. And industrial construction. If you're planning on building with industrial, something, a big warehouse, we'll also entertain you. We can get you connected with the right team for the design, and we can get you connected with the right engineering departments. Let's say if it's a chemical plant, we have under project management, we have the ability to go look for that talent and get them engaged, who's been doing that stuff for years, and then they can get you the right help. So yeah, do let us know if there's anything related to construction you need help with.
Awesome. That wraps up this episode of the Adeel Pirzada podcast, episode 6. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Kevin, and
thanks everyone.
This is Adeel.
Take care.
Have a good day, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.